We finally reached there, boys. We finally got to the point of where every single superhero comic book series in existence has to have a prison break. I don't want to say arc, but section, right? And we have finally gotten to My Hero Academia's prison break arc. This is big, boys. All right, we have no filler. We literally transition directly from the death of all the heroes chapter straight into Shigaraki literally attacking the prison with all of the army of High-End Nomu directly into the next chapter. I mean, we did take a break. My Hero was off for a break, but let's dive into chapter 297 because literally this chapter is nothing but prison breakness. Prison breakness? I don't know. It doesn't matter. Anyway, a bit of tidbit of information about Tartarus. It's located 5 kilometers off the coast of the mainland. It's been built to house a bunch of conventional quirk users, and it is divided into 6 levels where the potential threats of criminals are deemed higher the further the underground you go. Once you enter, there is no chance of leaving. It's considered the darkest corner of quirk society. So Tartarus prison is literally just you exist. You exist. But I mean, if you've been deemed to go into Tartarus prison, bro, you have done some shit. But we are going to start at 8:34 p.m. at the main entrance, commonly known as the Bronze Gate. What happens is we have 2 guards just chilling, and they get a distress call from a hero. I don't know how to say his name. I'm assuming it's Gaijus, but I'm gonna get it wrong because I'm trash. And he gets a transmission that says, "Announce a code red security lockdown." And then he says, "My brother is dead," and call a code red this instant. So it looks like this hero's brother has fallen. He is GG'd. And this one lone hero is trying to protect the main entrance as we see Shigaraki and the army of Nomu are attempting to break into Tartarus prison. And in this chapter, you're going to see a lot of Tartarus's security protocol. There's a bunch of these robots. You obviously have heroes here. You have a bunch of guards with obviously probably the highest weapons you can get for a guard of this caliber. And we then go to Taurus B10, which is the lowest level, and we see some 2 guards talking pretty much on the security system. And they're talking about how Gigantomachia is going to be arriving here tomorrow, but the fact that is this one guard on the left, on the right, sitting in the chair, wants to just kill Machia, and then the left guy says, "You can't kill him. He's too big. Fireworks don't work, and since he is deemed a human being, you cannot use missiles on him because it is deemed unethical." And then the other guard says, "I don't consider him human. He's just a disaster waiting to happen, a beast." And he says, "Same goes for all the scum rotting here." And then of course the guard says, "Stop talking like that because you don't know where information can be leaked at this point." Blah 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 politics, right? We then get a little part here that says these people are just beasts in human clothing. We get a little quick flash of Muscular in his prison cell. We get Moonfish in his prison cell. We get, I believe this is Overhaul in his prison cell. We then get Kurogiri in his prison cell, and then All for One in his prison cell. And then we get this girl who I cannot for the life of me remember. Is she a Quirk Liberation member? Is that what she was? She might have been that. I don't remember her name for the life of me. But this could possibly be her. And then it says, "Mingled among these husks who lost themselves due to their quirk. They're simply dreadful beings." So we then move on, right? The prison goes into code red, pretty much. All the doors close, everything maintains order. And we get a really nice shot here of Shigaraki coming in from underneath the bridge as they've taken out the Coast Guard and they are basically assaulting the main entrance of the prison. And the interesting thing here is, I'll put it on screen, Shigaraki is fully conscious at this point, and he is kind of talking he's talking this to All for One, who's kind of controlling his body through the All for One quirk, right? And Shigaraki says, "I told you this was my body, master." And then All for One says, He says, have you awoken? Continue to rest. Your regeneration has slowed. You must conserve your energy to heal. And what's really cool here is that you have like your typical comic book, like there's like a line there's like there's a little white gap in between both panels, but it's still the same scene. It's kind of like Two-Face from Batman, like I said before, where Shigaraki and All For One are kind of talking to each other, but Shiggy's on the right and All For One's on the left. And All For One says, I mean that you should rest after the dead is gone. Shigaraki then ends up saying, you're telling me to rest? What am I doing here? And he says, I mean that you should rest after the deed here is done. And then Shigaraki says, give me back my body. And then All For One says, wasn't it you who wished for my power? So it's really kind of cool here how ever since Spinner put the hand on Shigaraki's face, it's almost like All For One has retaken over Shigaraki's body. Kind of like how the hands on his face and on his costume kind of symbolized how All For One warped Shigaraki into the man he is today, despite him still being a villain, whether, All For One warped his childhood or not. Blah, blah, blah. We get an All For One monologue, right? We then say, Shigaraki then says, I don't want to be used as just a chess piece. And All For One says, do not be mistaken. You are not a pawn. You're the most important one of them all. You're my future king. Now, an interesting thing here is a lot of people have been debating whether or not when All For One says you're my successor or you're my future king, if he means that Shigaraki is going to be the leader of like evil, or if All For One is really just making a younger body for himself to inhabit, since his older body is kind of failing him a bit. All For One is definitely the most evil person in the series thus far. He probably he cares about nobody but himself, obviously. So if I were a betting man, I'd say All For One is probably using Shigaraki as like a new and young body, considering he's kind of controlling him against his will now, until he can kind of fully transport his consciousness into Shiggy. But I will say that this is not All For One's story, so Shigaraki is definitely going to come out on top if it has to come down to a All For One and Shiggy fight. We then flash back to basically the Nomu have breached the prison, and the guards have said that the surveillance tower has been destroyed. So they've already taken out the surveillance tower. An interesting thing here is that All For One ends up saying that even with even if Shigaraki was fully complete and his body wasn't failing him like it kind of is now, it still would have been a very difficult task to get into the prison. So in order for Shigaraki to break All For One out, All For One decides to kind of fuck up the prison a bit so other villains can break out. So we then see the guards say that the surveillance system is down, that they've been hit by some sort of EMP attack. They say that it only takes 3 seconds until the system comes back online, but with the system down, they can't monitor the inside of a cell. And that's when we see some electricity almost come bursting out of a cell door, and presumably the cell is going to explode open. We don't see who comes out of the cell, but it says, inside and out, working in harmony together at a shared level of consciousness. This is the only way. So it looks like All For One knew that the only way to break himself out was to give Shigaraki the quirk of All For One and rock a sort of a dual consciousness type of deal in order to break himself out from the outside, because there's no way All For One is breaking himself out from the inside. And it looks like this was kind of a calculated plan here from All For One all along here. We then see that the guards are talking about how the system will not come back online, and the prisoners in solitary confinement are breaking out of the prison. So it looks like the EMP attack not only knocked out the surveillance system, but it knocked it out permanently, right? Like, it seems like the reboot, the backup generators, whatever the fuck they have to make the system come back online, is just not working. So we then pan over to a bunch of guards who are pretty much ready to open fire on all these prisoners, because I'm pretty sure if you try to escape, the guards have the right to just dome you in the skull. And we then see a bunch of guards getting hit as someone says, you ain't gonna kill me with those puny toys. And we then get a really nice shot here that I'll probably put on screen of Muscular, who has broken out of prison, as he says, so how about you show me the exit already? And it's a really good picture of muscular. As you can tell, he is revving up those arms, bro. Dear God. He has not missed arm day. Fucking hell. And we then get a panel of Moonfish, who's also breaking himself out with his fucking teeth or some shit. You figure they would have locked him down with those teeth somehow, but probably not, as he's literally slicing a bunch of guards, just impaling them. And then we then get this girl, who I'm just going to assume is a Liberation Army member, because I don't remember her name. And she says, "The system isn't responding to my quirk. Guess the Tartarus really is falling." And as she opens the door, we then see somebody dash right past her who says, "Father." And I don't think this is Overhaul. I don't think this is, but it could be. It could be. I don't think it is, though. And then we see a bunch of guards basically yelling and stuff, as Shigaraki is kind of standing on top of the wall, who then says, "If you want to leave this place, then follow me, friends, and witness me from the sidelines." As all the villains look up, and even Mushka looks up and says, and wonders, "Yo, is that Shigaraki who's doing that?" And then we get the big panel of the final, the big panel to end the chapter of All For One carrying a guard or someone in his hands, as well as his breathing apparatus in his other hand, as Shigaraki is standing right across from him, as All For One says, "This marks the beginning of a transition into a new era. As the birth of a more perfect demon lord." This is the story of how I will become the greatest evil king, demon lord, whatever it means. The greatest villain is pretty much what that means. So that's where we end the chapter. Overall, this is going to begin quite an interesting arc. Now, the weird thing to me here is even though the heroes are completely crippled, there's literally nothing they could have done to prevent this from happening. Even even the heroes who are still fully healthy and capable, like, say, I don't know, maybe Mirio, maybe some of the 1A students, are just not enough to stop the onslaught of Nomu and Shigaraki, and even Broken Out, All For One, and all that stuff. But I have a sneaky suspicion, like, this small, like, prison break scene of the bigger arc is going to be a bit of like a mini My Villain Academia arc. I feel like this little prison segment, we're going to really focus on a lot of Shigaraki and All For One's relationship, which is eventually going to end in one of them dying. That's my guess, and I think it's going to be All For One here. Shiggy's going to kill All For One in order to get back the control of his body. So this might be an interesting character moment for Shiggy here in this little prison break segment, but oh boy, dude, imagine with all the heroes crippled and done, Shigaraki with All For One, Makia getting broken out potentially, and All For One back out, along with Overhaul and the rest of the villains of Tartarus, dude. It's a GG, boys. I cannot begin to tell you how it's even going to be possible for the heroes to stop the villains this time, but I guess maybe they'll pull something out of their ass. I mean, anime always does, right?